You ever have one of those days? You know the one. You're bouncing from meeting to email to Slack message all day long, but when you finally log off, you have this nagging feeling that you didn't actually get anything important done. Well, you're not alone. It's a huge problem in the modern workplace. And today, we're diving into the solution, laid out in Cal Newport's amazing book, Deep Work. And look, that feeling, it's not just in your head. A McKinsey study a few years back found something pretty shocking. The average knowledge worker, that's probably you, spends a staggering 60% of their week just on email and searching the web. Think about that. That leaves less than half your time for the actual substantive work you were hired to do. It is the perfect recipe for feeling busy, but not productive. And this, right here, this brings us to what Newport calls the modern work paradox. We're all busier than ever, constantly connected, constantly reacting. But the really valuable creative work, the stuff that actually moves the needle, that gets squeezed into the tiny cracks of our day, if it happens at all. Journalist Nicholas Carr really nailed the consequences of this. He said, "What the net seems to be doing is chipping away my capacity for concentration and contemplation." This is so important. He realized that constant distraction isn't just inefficient, it's literally rewiring our brains, making it harder to think deeply. This isn't a time management problem, folks, it's a cognitive one. So, what do we do about it? How do we fight back against this tide of distraction? Well, Newport gives us this incredibly useful framework by splitting all work into two simple categories, deep versus shallow. And let me tell you, just understanding this difference is a total game changer. All right, let's start with the goal, deep work. This is the good stuff. This is when you're in the zone, completely distraction-free, pushing your brain to its absolute limit. Imagine a coder debugging a nightmare of a problem, or a marketer writing a brilliant new strategy. This is the kind of work that creates huge value, and it's really, really hard for someone else to just come in and do it. And to do this kind of work, it takes serious commitment. Take the famous psychiatrist Carl Jung. He literally built a stone tower out in the woods. But here's the key. He didn't do it to escape his work. He did it to create the perfect environment to advance his work, to do the kind of deep thinking that would end up revolutionizing his entire field. And then there's the other side of the coin, shallow work. This is probably going to look a lot more familiar. Answering emails as they pop up, jumping on another status update meeting, posting to the company's social media, all that logistical stuff that fills our days. These tasks don't take a lot of brain power. They don't create much new value. And honestly, almost anyone with a little training could do. Putting them side by side like this really makes it clear, doesn't it? Deep work is hard. It's demanding. And that's exactly why it creates so much value. Shallow work is the opposite on every level. And here's the tragedy of our modern work life. We spend most of our time living on the right side of this chart, while all of our real economic value, the stuff that gets you noticed and promoted, lives on the left. This brings us to a really powerful claim. Newport argues that deep work isn't just another productivity hack. No, it's the essential skill for anyone who wants to thrive in the new economy. He even calls it the 21st century superpower. So, it really makes you stop and think, right? In a world that is only getting louder and more distracted by the day, what is actually the most valuable skill you can have? It's not about being great at using the latest app. It's about having the focus to build the systems that others will use. And that leads us to Newport's core argument, which he calls the deep work hypothesis. It's pretty simple but profound. It says that the ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare. At the exact same time, it's becoming increasingly valuable. And when something becomes both rare and valuable, well, that creates a massive opportunity for anyone willing to cultivate it. So why is it so valuable? It really boils down to two things. First, deep work is like a workout for your brain. It's the only way to get good enough to master complicated things really fast, which you have to do in this economy. And second, if you want to produce work that's truly world-class, work that stands out, you absolutely need that intense, unbroken focus. Let's make this real with a story. This is Jason Ben. He had a job as a financial consultant, but it was so shallow, so repetitive, that he realized his entire job could probably be automated with a simple Excel script. He was making 40 grand a year and knew he was at a dead end. So what did he do? He went all in on deep work. He literally locked himself in a room with just textbooks and trained himself to focus for hours at a time, building up that concentration muscle.
He then crushed a super demanding programming bootcamp, and in less than a year, he landed a job as a developer making $100,000. He more than doubled his salary because he replaced shallow, easy to replicate skills with deep, valuable ones.
So, if deep work is this powerful, why is it so rare? Well, Newport points to a few traps we all fall into. First, the principle of least resistance. Let's be honest, we'd all rather check email than tackle a really hard problem. Second, we use busyness as a proxy for productivity. If you look busy, you must be doing good work, right? Wrong. And finally, there's this cult of the internet, a weird belief that any activity that involves being online is somehow automatically productive. But here's the thing. The benefits of deep work go way beyond your career or your bank account. Newport's final and maybe most important argument is that a deep life is simply a good life. It's a life filled with meaning and satisfaction. The science writer Winifred Gallagher put this perfectly. She said, "Who you are, what you think, feel, and do, what you love, is the sum of what you focus on." Just let that sink in. Your entire reality isn't shaped by your circumstances, it's shaped by what you choose to pay attention to. So if you spend your day swimming in the shallows, constantly reacting to notifications and emails, your brain builds a world filled with anxiety and distraction. But when you spend significant time in that deep, focused state, you're training your brain to see your life as important and satisfying, and you're starving all those little negative distractions of the attention they need to survive. Psychologically, this connects directly to that amazing state we call flow. You know that feeling when you're so absorbed in something that hours feel like minutes? That's what the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi studied, and he found that the best moments in our lives usually happen when our minds are stretched to their limits on a tough task. Deep work is basically a recipe for generating flow. And there's a philosophical angle here too. Deep work connects us, knowledge workers, back to this ancient, timeless satisfaction of true craftsmanship. Just like a master blacksmith forging a perfect sword, when we apply intense skill and focus to create something of real quality, we tap into a source of meaning that's been part of the human experience for centuries. So at the end of the day, this is about so much more than just being productive. It's about intentionally building a life of value, a life of meaning, in a world that is trying its best to pull you into the shallows. The real question isn't what some author thinks, it's about you. What could you accomplish if you made the choice to go deep?